Hello trainers, Professor Palm here, and today we're going to be talking about the Titan Trio, the original three Titans. In case you don't know who the three Titans are, I'll definitely show you who they are. We have Regirock, Regi Ice, and Regi Steel. Now, I know that Regidrago and Regieleki are also Titans. However, I want to solely focus on these three because Generation 3 has its 20th anniversary this year. Isn't that crazy? Back in 2002 is when it had its Japanese release. Wow, these guys are over 20 years old. But you're about to learn, not only are they very old Pokemon, but they also have more to them than meets the eye. Speaking of which, you're about to learn something you may not have known, but let's take a minute and remember how difficult it was getting these Pokemon. Remember when, before the internet was what it was today, you had to know Braille, the entire English Braille alphabet, in order to solve the puzzles? Man, those were the days. Because back then, there wasn't even YouTube, and the only way to solve the puzzle was you either had to buy the guidebook, or you had to have known someone that knows Braille that could have taught you how to read the Braille alphabet. Because if you didn't know that, all three of the Titans are blind, and they use Braille in order to speak to everyone. Did you also know that despite these Pokemon being called Titans, they're based off of legendary Golems in the Hebrew Bible? Also, you should know that every single one of them represents a point in time. And where else do we start? But let's start with the oldest of all, my friend, Regirock. Let's start with the Titan who started it all, Regirock. As I said before, all the Titans represent different points in time, and Regirock represents the Stone Age. Not only that, but according to its Pokedex, it was born in the Stone Age. So, this is a fossil Pokemon that never died out and still lives among all other Pokemon, completely happy and alive. Did you know that the Braille sign on its head represents R? If you take away the right side of the three dots on its head, you'll have the Braille letter for R. Also, Regirock has the most prehistoric look to it, as turning it behind itself will show something very interesting. Regirock has what I'd like to call the Stegosaurus back, as it still has plenty of gems hidden on its back. Well, they're mainly rocks, but they're very well organized, similar to how a Stegosaurus's back was. So, this Pokemon can also defend itself using its back rather than its hands. And speaking of hands, it definitely still has all the strength it had back then, even the caveman strength, as it has the highest attack of all three of the original, and he definitely can pack a solid punch with those rock hands. Did you know that Regirock also has the ability to turn itself into a drill? If you remember Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, that was a very well-known scene that I caught up on. Also, despite Regirock being the heaviest of the original Titan trio at 507 pounds, he's surprisingly the shortest at only 5'7". Yeah, you'd think a guy like that would be bigger, but no, he is actually the shortest of everyone else there. Despite it being a very blind Pokemon, Regirock likes to live in the rocky areas, as it likes to find shelter and likes being in the darkness where there's all rock and nothing can disturb it. It's a very peaceful Pokemon when at rest, and it does not prefer to fight, but when pushed into a corner, it will. Now let's talk about one of the most violent ones of the group, Regi Ice. Let's move on to Regi Ice, the Ice Titan. He may be cold as ice, but he's definitely solid as an iceberg, as Regi Ice has the highest special defense of all legendary Pokemon. Not only that, the highest special defense of all Ice-type Pokemon, as well as the legendary Titans, with Regieleki and Regidrago thrown in there as well. Did you know that Regirock was born during the Ice Age? That's also what he represents. Also, it has a body temperature of negative 328 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's easy to see why this Pokemon does not mess around. That's even colder than liquid nitrogen, but it will never be as cold as liquid helium. On the back of Regi Ice, we can see it has 4 icicles. If you didn't know, that's the coldest part of its entire body. Touching one of those is the equivalent of touching liquid helium. Your body and anything that touches it will freeze instantaneously the moment you touch one of those icicles. Regi Ice is very scared as it does not like to fight, and it also fears hurting others. Like I said before, Regi Ice represents the Ice Age, but it's also the only Pokemon we have currently that is an Ice Age Pokemon and not a dinosaur. So, to this day, until Game Freak decides we should do more, or Nintendo says we need that, this will be the only Ice Age Pokemon we have. Regice is also the only Titan that has a different name that gets pronounced 2 ways. There are no 2 I's in it. It's either Regice or Regi Ice. Did you also know that it has a lower catch rate than any of the other Regi Pokemon? This is one of the hardest ones next to Regigigas, but not counting Regigigas, Regi Ice is definitely the hardest thing to capture. Since it is the only living ice Pokemon that was from the Ice Age, a lot of people love to call it the Ancient Living Glacier. But, as much as this cool Pokemon is, it's time we move on to my favorite of the Titans, Regi Steel. Now, let's move on to my personal favorite and the final of the original Titan Trio, Regi Steel. Regi Steel is the Pokemon that represents the Bronze Age, as well as he was born during the Bronze Age. This Pokemon always changes its metal based on what era it's in, and the steel on Registeel's body is so strong, not only can it not be damaged, it can't even be scratched, dented, or even chipped with how long this Pokemon has been around for. Did you know that Registeel was the first pure steel Pokemon in the Pokedex? Even though steel Pokemon were created in Gen 2 and some Pokemon gained the steel type, it wasn't until Registeel that we had our first pure steel Pokemon, as steel was not a single type, as it was mainly a primary or a secondary typing. Surprisingly, Registeel, being a steel Pokemon, doesn't have any stats that stand out, unlike Regirock with the highest attack of the Regis, and Regi Ice with the highest special defense of the Regis. It keeps its stats pretty even. The only major standout about it is that Registeel is the tallest of the trio, standing at 6'3". Also, unlike Regi Ice and Regirock, this Pokemon doesn't have anything behind its back. All it just has is a slit where its eyes are. For me, Registeel is my personal favorite because he was the first of the Titan Trio I caught when I played my Emerald as a kid. This Pokemon was a pain to capture, but it was definitely worth it. And it's my personal favorite because, unlike the others, he really does stand out for being much different than both the other ones, also being the youngest of the Titan Trio. Since their debut in Generation 3, the Regi Trio, as well as the other 2 who joined in Generation 8, have really been always around since every single game they've been in, as they're very easily to obtain, not just by cheats or hacks, but being able to get it later on in the game. It's pretty cool. I guess these guys like to go on vacation and explore the world just like us. After all, they've roamed the world for millennia. After all, these guys are, when you think about it, as old as time. Not as old as Arceus and Mew, as they're not ancestral Pokemon, but they definitely have been alive to see how the world went. Even though I said Registeel is my favorite of the Regi Trio, or the Titan Trio, I like all 3 of them. But I'd like to know, is there a certain one of the original trio you like? Is Regigigas your favorite? Or are you much more loyal to the Crowning Tundras, Regidrago and Regieleki? I would love to know. I just want to say that thank you, Pokemon Center. I may not be sponsored by you, but I'll still buy everything I can, as well as the Regent shirt. This is completely viable on PokemonCenter.com, as well as the plushies. You can go buy them anytime you want to. So, I'd like to say, if you enjoyed my video, please leave a like. If you had an idea that you'd like to see turn into a video, or you want to say how you felt about this, or answer any of my questions, please comment. And if you want to see any more, always subscribe. Thanks for watching. Palm out.